46 Mem Vav, relatively long, but pretty simple, straightforward daf. The first amud is going to be about berachot. Do we say a beracha every day for Sukkah and for Lulav? If yes, why and why not? Many opinions. And amud bet will be about the end of the holiday. Can you benefit from the etrog and from the Sukkah to eat the etrog and use the Sukkah on the 7th day, on the 8th day, and Chus Laris on the 9th day? Which are all very relevant. So we begin, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shemuel. This is the first statement of Shemuel we're going to see today. It's going to be quoted again. Lulav Shiv'a v'Sukkah Yom Echad. For Lulav, you say a beracha 7 times. Every day, you say a beracha al netilat lulav. However, Sukkah, you only say 1 beracha on the first night, and that covers you for the entire holiday. My ta'ama, lulav de mifsike lelot miyamim kol yoma misva be'apeh nafshehu. Lulav, because it's only applicable during the day. At night, interrupts. So then the next day, day 2, is a new mitzvah, because you went from not being chayav to now being chayav. So therefore, each day is its own mitzvah. Sukkah de la mifseke lelot miyamim kulehu shiva kehadama aricha damu. However, Sukkah, which applies both in the day and in the night, therefore it's like one long day. You say beracha in the first night, and that covers you for the entire 7 days. Okay, logical. Not the halacha, but that's logical. That's the opinion of Shemuel. Now we're going to see 2 opinions in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So Shemuel is from Bavel, Rabbi Yochanan is from Eretz Israel. He says, Sukkah shiv'a v'lulav yom echad. The opposite. Sukkah, you say every single day another beracha, but lulav only on the first day. My ta'ama, Sukkah de'oraita shiv'a. Sukkah, you have to sit in it mid-de'oraita all 7 days. So therefore, you say 7 berachot. Lulav derabanan sagile b'had yoma. Lulav during Chol HaMoed is only mid-derabanan, and therefore you only say 1 beracha on the first day when it's de'oraita. So you see, according to Rabba bar Chana in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, you only say a beracha on mitzvot de'oraita. You wouldn't say any beracha on any mitzvot rabbanan. Okay, this is going to be very important because today we're going to learn the source why we don't follow this. We do say berachot on many mitzvot rabbanan against this opinion. Now, ki ata Ravin amar Rabbi Yochanan. When Ravin, he's one of the Nechut who came from Eretz Israel to Bavel, and he said something different in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. He said, Echad zeh ve'echad zeh shiv'a, both Sukkah and Lulav, you say beracha all 7 days, which is what we do. And you wonder, what did Rabbi Yochanan actually say, right? If he has 2 opinions. Maybe he only addressed Sukkah. He said, Sukkah is 7. That was his whole shiur. And they weren't sure whether he said Lulav is 1 or Lulav is 7. Anyway, according to Rabin, both of them are 7. Amar Rav Yosef, nekot de Rabba bar Chana biyadach. So to decide between them, Rav Yosef in Bavel says, follow Rabba bar Chana. You do 7 for Sukkah and 1 for Lulav, the Oraita de Rabbanan split, because all the other Moraim, they transmit that opinion, and therefore, even though Rav Yosef is from Bavel, says, no, don't follow Shemuel, follow Rabbi Yochanan. But now we have a challenge to Rabba bar Chana's version of Rabbi Yochanan from a baraita, important baraita. Now, 146a. Ha'oseh lulav le'asmo, omer baruch shechian v'kiman v'gi'anu lazeman hazeh. When you prepare the lulav, you say shechianu, which might even be the day before, right? Whenever you buy it, you put it together, you tie it up, you're ready, you say shechianu then, because you're so happy that you're alive to be able to prepare for the mitzvah. And only on the first day, then you say the berkat ha-mitzvah. And even though you said the beracha the first day, you say a beracha 7 days. That goes against Rabba bar Chana, who said that only Dvar de'oraita, only the first day. The beraita continues. When you finish building the sukkah, which a couple of days before, whenever it is, then so you see, according to this, the preparation of the sukkah is itself right part of the experience. And so you're so happy that look, we have the sukkah is ready. So say shechianu. And of course, if you don't make your own sukkah, that would mean you don't say shechianu, right? If you're using the synagogue sukkah or your friend's sukkah. Nichnas lesheba omer asher kedushem sotav sivanu lesheba sukkah. Then, when you first come sit in it on the holiday, the first night, then you would say lesheba sukkah. And once you said the beracha, that's it. You don't say it ever again. Only the first time that you use it. That's against the other statement of Rabbi Chana, who said it's doraita all 7 days. You say all 7. So now we have a double challenge. Kashya lulav alulav, kashya sukkah as sukkah. Right? Lulav is the opposite, and sukkah is the opposite. And this is a beraita, which is tanaitic. And so, even though Rabbi Yochanan is very important amorah, the most important amorah, still it can't go against the beraita. So we can answer each one. Bishlama lulav alulav la kashya. Kan bizman shebet hamikdash kayam. Kan bizman kan she'en bet hamikdash kayam. The Beraita was talking about when there was a bet hamikdash. In the bet hamikdash, you were chayav deoraita all 7 days. That's why you say a beracha each of the 7 days. And Rabbi Yochanan was talking about later. Nowadays, outside, it's the Rabbanan all 6 during Chol HaMoed. Good, that makes sense. Ela sukkah kashya. But what about sukkah? Well, this is a problem, and we don't have a solution. Instead, we're going to save Rabbi Yochanan by saying Tana'ehi. It's actually a machloket Tana'im. So you're right, that beraita does not fit. Once it doesn't fit, we don't have to answer the other question either. But instead, Rabbi Yochanan has a support from another Tana. And even though this Tana is not talking about Sukkah, it's talking about Tefillin. So we're going to bring in some of the halachot of Tefillin. The Tanya, Tefillin, kol zeman shemanichan mevarech alehen dibrei Rabbi. Tefillin, every time you put them on, you say another beracha, even if it's multiple times on the same day, which is what we do. Sometimes on a fast day, you say do it in the morning. When you put it on again later, then you do it again. The same is true for a talit. If you on Yom Kippur, you take off talit, you gotta have a break, you put it on the same one, doesn't matter. You say another beracha. So the point is that you say a beracha every time you fulfill it. So that would make sense according to, even though you fulfilled it already, that would make sense according to Rabbi Yochanan, who says that you say it every day, right? Even multiple times. Chachamim say, you say put on tefillin in the morning, and that's it. This is especially relevant in those days when they wore tefillin all day. So every time they go to the bathroom, they take it off, they put it on, and nevertheless, you say it once at the beginning, and then that's it. So that would follow the other opinion regarding lulav, that you'd put it on just what you'd say lulav only at the beginning. Right, this is to answer, sukkah, right? The sukkah, you would say it only once in the beginning, and then that's it. But this is to answer sukkah, not lulav, right? So this is Rabbi Yochanan, who says you say a mitzvah for sukkah every time, is because he follows this, but this follows Rabbi, that's Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Just like tefillin, you say another beracha every time, and it's always doraita. So to sukkah is always doraita, and nevertheless you say a beracha every time you go into the sukkah. Possibly, that's right. We follow the B, and this would possibly even more than once a day, right? Just like tefillin could be more than once a day if you leave and do something else. Itmar Abaye amar helcheta kerebi. So Abaye says, yes, that's the halacha, even though it's against the majority, against Chachamim. Okay, but Rava amar helcheta kerabanan. Rava says, no, we follow Rabbanan. We only say one beracha. However, here's the story. Amar Rav Mari berach devat Shemuel. Rav Mari, the son of the daughter of Shemuel. Chazena le Rava tela aved kishmaate. I saw Rava does not follow what he said. He doesn't practice what he preaches. אלא מקדים וכאה ועייל בית הכיסא ונפיק ומשה ידיה ומנח תפילין וברך. In the morning, first he goes to the bathroom, and then he washes his hands and puts on tefillin and says beracha להניח tefillin. Okay, everybody does that. וכי צריך זמנה חרינה, עייל לבית הכיסא ונפיק ומשה ידיה ומנח תפילין וברך. If he has to go to the bathroom again, then he takes off his tefillin, he goes to the bathroom, he washes his hands, puts it back on, and says a beracha again. So you see that Rava himself followed Rabbi. He must have changed his mind from the time he said halacha kerabanan. And we follow this. We follow Rabbi both for tefillin and for sukkah. We say a beracha all 7 days. Good. Amar Mozutra Hazen Ale Rav Papi Techol Emat Emanach Tefillin Mebarech. Another support. Rav Papi would say another beracha for tefillin every time he put it on. Rabbanan Debe Rav Ashe Kol Emat Dem Shameshe Behu Mebarech. The students, the sages who studied in the Bet Midrash of Rav Ashe, they would, every time they touched their tefillin, they would say another beracha. So that's really a lot of berachot, right? Maybe when they adjusted it, they would say another beracha. So that's even more.
Not just the 7 days. It's every time you sat in the sukkah.
Right, according to this, even though they're only saying 7 days, I think what they mean is every time you fulfill the mitzvah. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shemuel, Misvat Lulav Kol Shiv'ah. So now, remember, we started with the statement of Shemuel, and so now we're re-quoting it. The lulav you say every time. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi Amar Yom Rishon Misvat Lulav Mikan Va'elach Misvat Zikanim. No, only the first day is a mitzvah deoraita. From then on, it's a mitzvah only from the Zikanim. So you can't say Asher Kedeshanu, that Hashem commanded us. Only the Zikanim commanded us. There is one commentary that said you would say Asher Kedeshanu b'mitzvat Zikanim. Right, but anyway, you wouldn't say Asher Kedeshanu Anetilat Lulav on the other days. That's according to Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Right, the Sechir. But Rabbi Yitzchak Amar, even it's a mitzvah Rabbanan. Nevertheless, you don't say beracha. But Rabbi Yitzchak Amar, Kol Yoma Mitzvat Zekenim, V'afilu Yom Rishon. Every day is mitzvah Zekenim. Even the first day is only the Rabbanan. This is very strange. This whole time we've been saying 100 times. And the first day is Doraita. What are you talking about, Rabbi Yitzchak? No, Ema bar mi Yom Rishon. You misquoted him. He didn't say afilu Yom Rishon. He said except for Yom Rishon. Every day is Vatzikim. So really, he agrees with Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Yachi hainu Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. That's the same. Why is he repeating it? Yeah, he is. Ema bechen amar Rabbi Yitzchak. We're not quoting him as a contrast. Usually, when you say Rabbi Yitzchak Amar, when you start with the name of a sage and then the word Amar, and he's second, that implies that he contrasts, but here, no, he means to say, I support him. I second that opinion. Ve'af Rav Savad, Rav also agrees, Kol Shib'ah Misvat Lulav, that you would say a beracha all 7 days. He agrees with those opinions above that also said that. Now, Rav didn't say this explicitly. We're implying it, inferring it from something else he said regarding Chanukah. And Rav did say this about Chanukah. Hamadlik ner shel Chanukah tzarich levarech. Right? Rabbi Yirmiyah Amar haro'eh ner Chanukah tzarich levarech. So the Rav said that if you light the Chanukah, right? The Sfaradim don't say Chanukiah or Menorah. We say Chanukah. Chanukah is the thing itself that you light. So you say a beracha. That means all 8 days. Even though Chanukah, the whole thing, the whole holiday is midrabanan. Nevertheless, you say a beracha. So there you go. By analogy, Sukkah would also be. It's curious why we're bringing Chanukah in. Well, it's also a drabanan. I think there's a deeper reason, whether the Gemara right here is aware of it or not. But why is Chanukah 8 days long? The original is many reasons, but the original reason, I think, is from the book of Maccabees, second book of Maccabees, chapter 10, where it says that when they cleaned up the Bet HaMikdash, Yehuda Maccabi said, we want to inaugurate it. And that year, on Sukkot, they were hiding out in caves like wild animals. They didn't get a chance to celebrate Sukkot. So now that they first get a chance to come back to the Bet HaMikdash, they celebrated Sukkot in Kislev. So actually, Chanukah is modeled after Sukkot. So, which is they're both 8-day holidays. You say full Hallel on both of them, right? They have a lot of unique aspects in the halacha, and there's a lot of proofs even in Chazal. Bet Shammai compares the korbanot that go down to you start with 8 and then go down to 1. Okay, so there is actually quite a deep connection between the two holidays, so it makes sense to derive one from the other. Now, Yerbi Miyah says, if you see a Chanukah, you're walking down the street, you say, oh, look at that. Someone lit a Chanukah, you say a beracha. Mai mevarech, what would you say? Amar Rav Yehuda, Yom Rishon, Hamadlik mevarech shalosh. Haro'eh mevarech shetayim. On the first day, if you're the one lighting it, you say 3 berachot. You say, lehadlik ner. Well, we'll see what exactly how you end it. Lehadlik ner shel Chanukah. You say she'asa nisim la'avotem meimim hazban hazeh, and you say she'chayanu. But if you only see it as you're passing by, you can't say Asher Kiddusham Mustafa Savan lehadlik because you're not the one lighting it. But if you see it, you can say the other two, al nisim and she'chayanu. You can still be glad that there's pirsumei nisa and you're happy about the commemoration of the miracle. Mikan ve'elach madlik mebarech shetayim ve'ro'eh mebarech echad. From the 2nd till the 8th day of Hanukkah, you no longer say Shehachianu. It's only from the beginning, the newness of the mitzvah. After that, if you're lighting, you say two berachot, lehadlik and al nisim. If you're only passing by and seeing it, then you say one beracha. Nowadays, we don't do this if you're passing by because right, you say right, because if you lit it as yourself already, or if you're planning to light it yourself, then you wait and you say it for yourself. It's only in a situation where for some reason you can't light and you only can see it, then that's when you would say it when you see someone else doing it. Okay, what do you actually say for the first beracha? Baruch asher kedushan mitzvotav v'sivanu le'adlik ner shel Hanukkah. Right, and we thank Hashem who commanded us who sanctified us in mitzvot and commanded us to light the Hanukkah, the lamp of Hanukkah. Now you see in the printed edition it says shel. Someone put it in parentheses. But when someone put in parentheses, that means in the original printed edition it was there, and someone decided to take it out. And we don't always know who took it out, and why. So really the final printers want you not to read it, but sometimes the final print is not on what it's based on. So you really have to go back to the manuscripts. I just checked the manuscripts, and every manuscript has the word shel except for one, except the Munich 95. Even the Yemenite manuscripts. Actually, that's not so surprising because Hanambam says shel Hanukkah in one word, shel Hanukkah. So the Yemenites follow Rambam. Rambam has it. So it seems like the original Gemara does say ner shel Hanukkah, and Ashkenazim say shel Hanukkah. Syrians and I guess other Adot Mizrach tend to skip shel, but someone just told me that they heard from some rabbis and elders that even in Syria and Aleppo, there were people that said shel Hanukkah. Okay, so this needs more research to see where the skipping of the shel came from, because according to what I've seen so far, it is in fact in all but one manuscript. All right, vehechan sivanu. And now the big question, how could you say, right, bless Hashem for commanding us to light Hanukkah? Hashem never commanded us to light the Hanukkah. It's all Rabbanan. This whole story of the Chashmonaim didn't happen. It's nowhere in the Tanakh. So vehechan sivanu milot tasur. Torah does say in Devarim, don't veer from what the court, right? So the original context is talking about the Supreme Court, that if you don't know the law, then you go to Supreme Court and they tell you, you owe him $100, tell you the law. We don't have a Supreme Court today. And so instead the Midrash applies the same thing to the rabbis, the rabbinic legislation, you have to follow them. So indirectly, yes, Hashem told you, Hashem said, listen to the rabbis, and the rabbi said to do this. So therefore, it's perfectly legitimate to say that Hashem commanded us to do this. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, Shalabicha v'yagedcha. Quoting from Hazinu, ask your father and he'll tell you. So that's a pasuk that said you should always ask your father, what should I do? And if he says so, in other words, you follow the traditions. This one is more about traditions from parents, grandparents. The first pasuk is more about listening to the sages, the judges themselves. The first one is nicer because it's in halachic context. The second one, the context is ask your parents about history. Did anybody, Hashem, ever save a nation like this? Okay, so we have both of them. Now, my mema'ayat, which one do you not say from the second day and on? Ziman, you don't say Shechianu. Wait, ema mema'ayat nes, why don't you skip the miracle part, right? But how many miracles were there? Right now, we're assuming just one. So we answer, Nes kol yom ha'iteh. No, there's a miracle every day. Now, what are they talking about? I think when the questioner is assuming that the miracle is focusing on the war, right? They won the war. That's what happened one time. So they didn't win the war for 8 days. And probably the answer is saying the miracle of the oil, which lasted 8 days. So I think their question and answer are focusing on different aspects of the miracle. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak matneh la behedya. All this, why do we bring all this? To prove that Rav said you say a beracha every day of Chanukah. Therefore, he would also say a beracha every day of Sukkot for Lulav, even though it's the Rabbanan. And so now Rav Nachman said, you don't have to infer it. I have a tradition that Rav said explicitly that you say a beracha all 7 days of Lulav. And that is what we do. Good. Tenor Rabbanan, ha'oseh sukkah le'asmo, omer baruch shechianu. So now we're re-quoting that baraita that when you make the sukkah, you say shechianu. Nichnas ha'sheba omer baruch asher kedeshanu. Only when you sit in it, you say birkat ha'mitzvah. Hayta asuya ve'omedet. Im yachol lechadesh badavar mevarech. What if you have a sukkah that was already there? You have like a gazebo thing that's there all year round, and it was so that you're not building it. So then, if you can do something new, there's a machloket among the commentaries. Doesn't mean you have to do something substantially new, like with the walls or the schach. How about just even the decoration? Some say even just that. So anyway, improve it, and then you say shechianu. And if not, if you don't get a chance to improve it or anything, and it's made from before, then when you do sit in the sukkah, you will say shechianu. So you don't miss out on saying shechianu altogether. He said, I saw Rav Kana. He said both berachot, the mitzvah and Asher Kiddushanu, when he said kiddush on the first night, which is exactly what we do. So why do we do this? Even though the Baraita says otherwise and other opinions otherwise, it seems that for a lot of history, this is brought down in Rishonim from different countries, that not everybody had a sukkah and a lulav, because there would be, lulav was the same thing. You're supposed to say shechianu when you make it. It seems that in many countries, the communities had just one lulav that many people shared. So then only one person is going to say shechianu. What about everybody else? So therefore they said, no, say it when you do the beracha. And same thing with sukkah. Not everybody had a sukkah. Lulav, maybe it was hard to get. Sukkah, maybe it was difficult. Maybe it was dangerous to make a sukkah. So there was one in the Bet Knesset, and therefore, what? Only one person is going to say shechianu? No, everyone says it when they sit. It's just interesting because I thought it was just like in modern America, people were lazy, so they got in a generation ago, and they just got one lulav for the whole community. But it sounds like it goes back even to the times of Rishonim. Not so the second Bet HaMikdash period. We have a letter from Bar Kochva ordering lulavim for every soldier. So he wanted to make sure everybody had it. So, but from then till now, I think there were gaps in history when it was difficult. They weren't able to do it. But that does explain why we say shechianu together with the performance of the mitzvah. Tenora banan ayu lefanav misvot harbe. Okay, related note, what if you have many mitzvot to do all at the same time? Rashi says, for example, let's say you're going to put on tefillin and talit in the sukkah while you're taking lulav. Okay, this is interesting because do we put on tefillin on Sukkot? Our custom is not to during Shchol Moed, Kabbalistic custom, but you see Rashi did definitely put on tefillin because that's his example on the Chol HaMoed. Okay, anyway, you have the many berachot to do all at the same time. Omer baruch asher kedushanu b'mitzvotav v'sivanu ala mitzvot. You just put them all in one beracha, and that's it. Right? All the mitzvot. No, each one deserves individual attention. Don't just bundle them up. It's nice to think about and appreciate each one for itself. Rabbi Hanina bar Papa Hilcheta ke Rabbi Yehuda. We follow the second one. We say each beracha by itself. Rabbi Hanina bar Papa. Same sage. My ta'ama de Rabbi Yehuda. Dichti Baruch Adonai Yom Yom. What's the source that you should be particular in your praise? That it says that we bless Hashem day to day. Do we only praise God bless God in the day and not in the night? We say Arbit. Rather, what we learn from here is that every day you should mention the day in your prayers. If it's Shabbat, say Mekadesh Shabbat. If it's a holiday, talk about the holiday. You should particularize your prayers. So to here, when we're talking about berachot for mitzvah, you should be more particular. This is true for berachot and nehenin also. You don't say just thank you for all the food. You say if it's a fruit, it's a vegetable. When you're writing a thank you note, you could write, thank you for the gift. But then it's kind of impersonal. If you write, thank you for the beautiful vase. It's on my counter every day. It's the most beautiful one I've ever seen. Right? Then, the more particular it is, the nicer the praise, the more impactful it is, especially on us that we will have a gratitude. So same sages that we said. We're not sure if he said it or the other one said it, but now a third thing that they said. Hashem's ways are not like our ways. Spiritual ways are not like our physical ways. Midat basar v'adam kilide kan machazik male eno machzik. In the regular world, if you have a bowl and it's full, you can't put anything more in it. If it's empty, then you could put something in it. But in the ways of God and spiritual matters, if you have a person who's full of spirituality and mitzvot, he can do even more. Whereas someone who doesn't do anything, he can't, right? This is like if you have something that needs to get done, give it to a busy person, right? They'll find a way. A lazy person, he has a lot of time, but he's not going to do that anyways. It doesn't accomplish anything. Shemar im shamoa tishma, pasuk at the end of Devarim. If you heed the mitzvot, then tishma, in future, you will merit to have even more mitzvot. Right? When someone does a mitzvah, you say, tiskel mitzvot. You did one, so now you have many more. It's not, you don't get full, you just, right, the more you do, the more room you have to do even more. Im shamoa tishma, vim lav lo tishma. And if you don't do it, then you're going to end up doing nothing. If you studied and you reviewed what you had in the past, then you'll be open. A brain that doesn't get full. It's not like, oh, I learned 100 dapim. That's it. I can't fit anymore. No, the more you learn and the more you go back and review and remember everything you said, then the new will have even more space and you'll be able to learn even more. But if you turn away and watch Netflix, then you'll never learn. Then you won't be able to have room to learn any more Torah either. Okay, hint. Miyad tinokot. Okay, so now that finishes the section on berachot, and now we're going to talk about enjoying, getting benefit from the etrogim and from the Sukkah. So the end of the Mishnah said, immediately the children would drop their lulavim and grab the etrogim and eat them. Sounds like they did it right away. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan, etrog b'shibi'i asur, b'shemini mutar. Rabbi Yochanan says the whole day of the 7th, you still can't eat the etrog. We'll see all this why, but it's mukseh. It's not mukseh same as Shabbat because it's Chol HaMoed. But even on Chol HaMoed, there's a concept of mukseh, which is I had in mind that this is going to be for mitzvah, and therefore it's for Hashem. It's not mine, and that I had in mind all 7 days. Even though I took it in the morning, even the afternoon's not allowed. But Shemini, on Shemini Aseret, okay, there's no mitzvah of etrog anymore, then you can eat it. Sukkah, afilu b'Shemini asura, but Sukkah, even on the 8th day, you cannot benefit. We're not talking about sitting in the sukkah. We're going to get to that later. We're talking about benefiting from the sukkah. Like if the sukkah fell down and you want to take one of the rods and use it to go fishing, right? No, not allowed. This is mukseh for the mitzvah.
Even on the 8th.
Even on the 8th day. We'll see. We'll explain why. Resh Lakish says on the 7th, you finished it with it in the morning. You did your Hoshanot. That's it. You can go eat the etrog. What's the essence of the machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish? Mor sabar lemisvata itkasai. Resh Lakish, who is more mekel, he said it's only mukseh. It's only set aside for the mitzvah. Once I fulfill the mitzvah, then Fadal use it. And Mor savar kule yoma itkasai. Rabbi Yochanan said it's set aside for the day, the whole day on which I can use it. And you can fill mitzvah of lulav anytime during the day. Even after I fulfilled it, I still set it aside and I can't use it. Now, question, challenge. Iti be Resh Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. Resh Lakish challenges Rabbi Yochanan. Why are you being so machmir? It says in the Mishnah, miyad tinokot shomtinet lulbehen v'ochlin et etrogehen. Right, the children would go and eat it. My love, who adin the gedolim, isn't it? I mean, it just happens to be the kids like etrogim, then they taste good. But the truth, if it's saying to do it, then it must be that for adults also could do it, right? Rabbi Yochanan. So he's already set him up for the answer. Lo, tinokot davka, says children. Only children did it. Because, okay, they went and ran and did it, but they're not, the adults would not do it. And so therefore it's not permitted. Another version of this conversation. Rabbi Yochanan is one that challenged Resh Lakish. Why are you being so lenient? It says in the Mishnah, Miyad says the children would go and eat them. Tinokot in gedolim la. See, only the children would. Doesn't say that the adults would. His answer is no, even adults could eat it. I was just telling you the reality. Who's going to go and be excited and eat them? The children usually did it, but really the adults could do it too. Okay, this gets into a general question. When the Mishnah mentions a story like this, is it just telling some history, like it's bringing alive what the celebration was like and telling this, or is it for a halachic purpose and saying so specifically that tinakot, or that's just the way the story was, and that's why I wanted to teach that to us. All right.
Well, what do you get? So what's the answer?
That's machloket.
Oh, it's this.
Yeah, I mean, but both of them, both Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, can both explain the Mishnah just fine. By the way, I explained this whole Mishnah not according to Rashi, that miyad, immediately the children would eat. Rashi said the opposite, that from the hands of children, the adults would grab them and eat them. And then you have to reread this whole thing. Okay, Rashi actually has a proof for his reading from Vayikra Rabbah, but that's a whole other story. Amar le Rav Papa le Abaye. Rabbi Yochanan, Ma'ishena Sukkah, Ma'ishena Etrog. So the question is, according to Rabbi Yochanan, how come Sukkah you cannot use even on the 8th day, and Etrog you can use on the 8th day? What's the difference? Amar le Sukkah de Hazia leben Hashemashot, I itreme le seudata ba'emeta begava umachel ba begava itkasai leben Hashemashot. Umigo titkasai leben Hashemashot itkasai lechulei yoma de shemini. So what would happen at the end of the 7th day? You say, I'm hungry. I'm going to sit down for a meal. It's still Sukkot, so I'm going to sit down in Sukkah, and now my meal extends during Ben Hashemashot even into Shemini Asid. That could happen. You start Shemini Asid early, right? So in that case, you'd be sitting in the Sukkah during Ben Hashemashot. The laws of Mukseh on Yom Tov and Shabbat are if you don't have it in mind during Ben Hashemashot, then it's prohibited the entire time, wherever it is during Ben Hashemashot. So since during Ben Hashemashot the Sukkah is usable and it's a real possibility, therefore, whether you use it or not, since you could use it, you can't benefit from it the entire 8th day. Etrog, no one's going to bring etrog, shake the lulav during Ben Hashemashot. Maybe you might do it 5 minutes before sunset. You're still allowed to do it. Ben Hashemashot, it takes 1 second. You don't do it for an extended time. Since you don't set it aside during Ben Hashemashot, so therefore it's permitted to use and benefit from on the 8th day. So that makes a lot of sense. And that is that's all that explains Rabbi Yochanan. Ve'levi amar etrog afilu b'shemini asur. He says more machmir. I think etrog even on the 8th day you can't use it. Apparently he's thinking of Ben Hashemashot as there's a machlok. Is Ben Hashemashot an immediate 1 second? We just don't know where it is. And if so, well then it ends, so it should be okay. There's another view that says Ben Hashemashot is a mixture of both days. So there is a time when it would be eligible for mitzvah, and also the next day already started overlapping. And so because of that combination of Ben Hashemashot, it is mukseh during Ben Hashemashot, and then even on the 8th day. That might be what Levi's reasoning is. The father of the famous Amora Shmuel said, no, etrog on the 7th is not allowed, the whole 7th, but on the 8th day, it's okay, you can use it. The father of Shmuel changed his mind, and he became more stringent like Levi and said even on the 8th day. But his opinion was retained by another Amora, so they played musical chairs. Rabbi Zera said, I know the father Shmuel changed his mind, but I agree with his original opinion. Let's say it got smashed on the 2nd day, you still can't eat it all 7 days, because what you had in mind, it'll be mukseh for the mitzvah. So even though you can't use it for a mitzvah, it's still mukseh. And this is actually even a bigger chidush, because you might say, according to that, fine, 7 days, but now into the 8th day, there's no way you're going to use it. Nevertheless, you can't use it all 7, but you can use it on the 8th. He's more lenient. Okay. Amar Rabbi Zera la likne inish hoshana. That was Rabbi Zera. Now another piece of advice from him. La likne inish hoshana linuka b'yomat haba kama. The word hoshana refers to all arba minim. They call them hoshana because you do hoshanot with them. So a person should not transfer ownership of the lulav to a child on the first day of Yom Tov. Because a child has the ability to acquire something and it'll be in his possession, but he does not have the mindset to be able aknuye. Aknuye, like in Hebrew, you have hifil, which means a causative. Aknuye is a afel. In Aramaic, it's the same. To cause someone else to gain ownership. The child cannot transfer ownership from himself to an adult. He can acquire, but he can't give. And so therefore, so if you give it to your kid and he does lulav, and the kid gives it back to you, it's not yours anymore, and now you can't fulfill your own mitzvah. If you do it the other way, if you do it first, and no one other adults need it, then okay, you can give it to the kid. But okay, there's a machloket. How old is this kid going to be? Rambam says bar mitzvah. Others say even 6 or 7 years old, as long as he understands the concept of ownership.
No, but it's bar mitzvah. He's hayav in it anyway, so it's okay.
Right. So that means no kid. Even a 12-year-old, you can't do this to. There's more machmir. According to the other opinion, as long as 6, 7, 8, he understands what the concept of transfer of ownership, then he would be able to. So you could give it to him and take it back. But since Rambam says that, we're machmir and we don't want to give it to any kids before we fulfill ourselves. Rabbi Zera says something else, which seems unrelated. He says, La lema inish linuka dehaben alach midi v'layahible. Don't promise something to a kid and then not give it to him. Don't say, do this for me, I'm going to give you $50, and then you don't pay him. Why? Mishum da'atel agmure shikra. Shenemar limedu lashonam daber sheker. You're going to teach the kid how to lie. Oh, look, see, people say things and then they don't mean it. I'll do the same thing. And Yirmiyah says that this is a terrible thing to do, to train your tongue to say lies. Now, could it be that Rabbi Zera's two statements here actually are related to each other? Because since you're not allowed to transfer ownership to your kid for the lulav and then get it back, you might think, oh, you know what? I'll hand it to my kid. I'll have in mind not to transfer ownership. I'll make it look like I'm giving it to him, but not really giving it to him. Don't do that either, because the kid thinks you're giving him a present, and you're not really giving him a present. Now, maybe he won't know right now, but he'll figure it out, and he'll say, hey, my father lied to me this whole time. Oh, I guess I'm allowed to lie. So don't do that. Okay, now regarding the machlok between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shakish that we started with, whether you can do it. Not tinokot.
Yeah, but the etrog.
The 6 and 7. So the itmar hifrish shib'a etrogim l'shib'a yamim. If you have 7 etrogim, you designate one for each day. Amar Rav. Rav says each one you take it on the first day and then you're done. Eat it right away. Second day you shake it, then you could eat it right away because you had in mind only for that day, not for the whole 7. He says no. Each one you fulfill your mitzvah and you can only eat it till the next day. Even though you finished with it today, it's mukseh for the whole day. So one will say it's for the mitzvah itself. This is right. Remember Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. That's what
one says for the whole day, and one says only for the mitzvah.
Right. They were talking about on the 7th day. Can you eat it right away on the 7th day, or do you have to wait the entire day? So that would apply even to every day if you have 7 etzrogim and you have in mind only for that day. So the one who says only for the mitzvah itself, that would be Rav. It says it's only I fill the mitzvah, I can eat it right away. Whereas Rav Aseh said that it's the whole day, so you have to wait till tomorrow. Now, all that was talking about Eretz Yisrael, where you have just 7 days and Shemini Atzeret. But we have that Shemini Atzeret and also what we call today Simchat Torah. So, and Shemini Atzeret, maybe it's the last day of Sukkot, maybe it's the first day of Shemini Atzeret. And even though we have set calendars, we act as if we still have a sefek. So what should we do? When can we eat the etrog? Amar Abaye, shemini sefek shebi'i asur. Tishri'i sefek shemini mutar. The 8th day, which we're not sure, maybe it's the 7th day, so you cannot use eat the etrog. But on the 9th day, which might be the 8th day, that's okay. That's like way after. Meremar amar afilu shemini sefek shebi'i mutar. Even the 8th day, which might be the 7th day, is still okay because we're not taking lulav on that day. For sure we're not. And so even though, yeah, you're right, possibly it's the 7th day, but practically we're not taking it, so it's not mukseh. In Surah, that's the city of Rav, they followed Maremar, and they were more lenient. Rav Shesha bere, the Rav Idi abed ke Abaye. Rav Shesha followed more stringent, and therefore the halacha is in fact more stringent. That is the halacha in Eretz Yisrael. You can't use it on the 7th day because it was on the 8th day. And outside of Eretz Yisrael, you cannot eat the etrog on the 8th day. You can eat it on Simchat Torah. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.